Our This Week program comes to Houston for the Economic Summit. We'll talk about economic and security issues with the Secretary of State, James Baker, and Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. Joining me from the historic south entrance of the Houston Museum of Fine Arts, ABC's Sam Donaldson, George Will, and our White House correspondent, Rick Hume. Sunday, 12 noon, Channel 13, KTRK.
President Bush and Channel 13 are kicking off the Economic Summit with a Texas-style party, and you're invited to an exclusive ringside seat. Sunday night, you can enjoy Channel 13 programming and the President's Party beginning at 5:30 with 13 Eyewitness News, followed at 6 by America's Funniest Home Videos. At 6:30, join President Bush for his rodeo and Grand Ole Opry party in its entirety. The ABC movie is next, followed by 13 Eyewitness News. Then stay tuned for Mr. Belvedere and Life Goes On. Exclusive Texas-style entertainment Sunday night here on 13.
Monday's General Hospital will be seen at the special time of 2:30 in its entirety.
Good evening, friends. I'm Dave Ward. We are live at Houston's Contemporary Arts Museum.
And I'm Sheriff Fryer, and this is a special edition of Eyewitness Houston.
This evening, we're reporting on the Economic Summit, which officially opens in Houston on Monday. The schedules are in place, the extracurricular activities are planned, and it's just a matter of getting things rolling.
This Economic Summit is probably one of the biggest events to happen in our city in recent memory. The Houston Host Committee has been busy for months. They have been working along with the Secret Service and various other law enforcement agencies to scour the city and make it secure for President Bush and his invited guests from Europe, Japan, and Canada.
Of course, they'll be meeting over at Rice University. That's the official working headquarters for the summit. The convention center is where reporters from around the world will be headquartered. And on the eve of the first of all the official events, I'd say that things are starting to come together now.
We are broadcasting this program to you live from the Contemporary Arts Museum. We will be joined in a few minutes by our colleagues Melanie Lawson, Alan Himberger, and Tom Cook.
We're here because this museum is one of several, four to be exact, where a huge party is being held later this evening for the visiting members of the media from all over the world who have descended upon Houston for the Economic Summit. And we would like you to see what the visitors are going to be seeing when they arrive for that party. And Deborah Wrigley has that report.
In a typical week, the Contemporary Arts Museum sees up to 1,000 visitors. Tonight, it's expected to have 4 times that number. And the CAM, as it's known, is preparing to show off.
A lot of the work is just beautiful, and it's using natural materials.
It was welcome coincidence an environmental art exhibit is what visiting reporters will see here. And it may send a message: ecology is not lost on a petrochemical city. This piece is made in part from tar.
This piece is called Monument to United States 1 and 2.
And next to that, the nation on ceramic tile, highlighted by bits and pieces of nature and earth. A toxic waste map is included in the display. This piece curves from the floor and up a wall, a rubbing of a Utah creek that died. Another one is a composite of soil gathered locally. The artist is from New York.
It was collected by 1,000 school children from Aldine, Alief, and Cypress Fairbanks. And Alan Sonfist used that to create his icon of Houston. And it's really a lovely piece.
From the sweeping large-scale works to the smaller, a pinhole photography exhibit is downstairs. Here, a collection of the surreal. A tiny pinhole is the only lens needed. The lack of focus is what gives these pictures mystery.
Here is kind of being a dream.
From dreams to nightmares. This entire room will be filled with reporters, champagne, and dessert trays. And for a museum, that's cause for nervous laughter.
We're not hysterical, but we're going to have a lot of our, gallery attendants here, and a lot of our board of trustees will be here. So we'll all be able to enjoy it and also protect our artwork.
All playing security. But the payoff should be worth the anxiety. It means big exposure for Houston's younger, hipper museum.
That's what we want that's how we think about ourselves, and that's what we want them to see here.
Mm-hmm. That it isn't just Remingtons and old masks.
Exactly. Those are beautiful too, but this is what happens here and now.
From the Museum District, Deborah Wrigley, Eyewitness Houston.
Thank you, Deborah. Local media are sponsoring this traveling party for our visiting news media guest tonight. In just about an hour, this place should be swarming with people.
And we will be right back.
This evening on Eyewitness Houston, we'll report on two men handpicked by President Bush to lead the Houston Summit Host Committee, Kenneth Lay of Enron and Texas Republican Party leader George Strait. And we'll hear about exhaustive preparations the hotels have been going through and the work of one of the main caterers.
Tracer is here, and to make room, Texas, Oklahoma, Lincoln Mercury dealers are evacuating inventory with factory-to-dealer cash. Save $1,550 on Topaz GS, $721 on Cougar LS, and $700 on Sable GS. Lincoln Mercury is making big deals now to make room for the new small Mercury Tracer. See your Lincoln Mercury dealer today.
Making a splash, having fun. Long John's home style for everyone. Long John Silver's making a splash.
Crispy fish, oh so hot. The price is great and you get a lot. Long John's home style,
making a splash.
Try our 4-piece home style meal, making a splash for just $2.99.
The customs of First Colony. Rich with family traditions and top-rated Fort Bend schools. It's no wonder First Colony's been Houston's fastest-growing community since 1980. See 9 custom neighborhoods this weekend, priced from the 160s to over $1 million. And now is the best time to get pre-construction prices in Colony Creek and Colony Oaks. Take the Southwest Freeway and exit Sweetwater Boulevard to the Custom Sales and Information Center.
We moved into another room now in the Contemporary Arts Museum. The whole exhibit is called The Revered Earth, and Deborah referred to this one. It's dirt from all around Houston, collected by over 1,000 people.
A lot of movers and shakers have been working on that. The term movers and shakers has become very much a part of Houston's vocabulary. And that, when President Bush picked the people to run this summit, he picked exactly that type of person.
That Houston Host Committee reads like a who's who of go-getters in our town, including the co-chairman, people like Ken Lay. He happens to be the top man at Enron. He's also the chairman of the Board of Regents at U of H, and he's involved in countless other projects throughout the city. You might say that he's a summit booster to make Houston proud. Trumpeting the strong points of Houston comes naturally to some, and though Ken Lay and his wife Linda are not native Houstonians, they show all the characteristics of high energy, enthusiasm, and commitment. This night in their River Oaks home, they play host to some of the volunteer leadership and major donors to the summit. A revving up for the home stretch in an effort that has virtually consumed the last 6 months. So I asked, was it civic pride or presidential friendship that made him accept the task?
First of all, it's very tough to tell George Bush no. But secondly, I think the Economic Summit is extremely important to Houston, Texas. And I think it's going to give us some opportunities that we may never have again, at least in the near term. But I think there's an awful lot of the story of Houston that hasn't been told or hasn't been understood around the world. And by us telling that story, we think we will further enhance Houston as a place to do business for companies and all over the world.
He's backed up that belief personally. When the Enron Corporation was created by the merger of Houston Natural Gas and Internorth of Nebraska, it was Chairman Ken Lay who convinced the board to relocate here. Headquartered in a 50-story building downtown, Enron generated $9.8 billion in revenues last year. But this CEO gives no evidence of loftiness. His feet pound the pavement each morning as a jogger, and he's known for note writing and encouragement of employees many rungs down the ladder. Are you an easy boss?
I probably ought to ask the people that work for me. I expect I demand pretty high performance from all the people that work with me, but at the same token, I think I'm reasonable from the standpoint of the people that work for me. I'm not sure easy would be the right word, but I'm certainly attempt not to be a hard boss.
Ken and Linda have 5 children whose photos are a focal point in this office. But this 48-year-old executive is also a former Navy lieutenant who served in the Pentagon and later with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. His resume includes stints with Exxon and Transco, too. A former Missouri farm boy with a Ph.D. in economics. I said, wow.
I've been very lucky. I've done a lot of things that have been very satisfying, very rewarding. I've made a lot of friends. You know, we have a great family, great kids. So I've been very lucky. Not sure I ever stand back and say, wow. Maybe don't have too much time to stand back and say, wow. But I feel very lucky.
Final question. If George Bush were to pick up the phone today and say, Ken, we're having an economic summit in Houston a year from now, and I want you to handle it, would you say yes again?
Well, the good news about that is that the U.S. will not host another economic summit for 7 years. So that telephone call will not be coming. But sure, even though it's taken more of my time than I expected, I still think it is such great importance to the city and to the president that I would not make a decision any different than I did last January. I'd still be happy to do it for him.
And happy that he is. Of course, even though he has given the last several months of his life to this summit effort, so has his co-chair, George Strake. We're going downstairs now here at the Contemporary Arts Museum to Alan Himberger for that story. Alan?
Hello, Dave and Cher. Of course, the name of George Strake is quite familiar to all Texans because of his long involvement with Texas politics, and his face is also quite familiar to the local community.
In my lifetime, I've never seen the city as fired up about anything as they are this.
And that's saying something for a man who's been a part of the oil business in Houston for 30 years. And over those 30 years, George Strake has also made a personal commitment to serve this city and the state.
I now call to order the second general session of the 1988 Republican State Convention.
The former Secretary of State and Lieutenant Governor candidate recently completed a 5-year stint as the state chairman of the Republican Party. For the past few months, he has served as co-chairman of the Summit Host Committee, the organization responsible for getting Houston ready to play host to the leaders of the 7 most prosperous nations on earth during the economic summit. Strake sees the summit as an opportunity for Houston to show the world that it is indeed a world-class convention city, that Houston is an international city, clean and hospitable, a good place to do business. And he also believes it will give us a chance to show the world that we are well along the road to recovery from the oil bust.
I think it's going to dismiss one myth that has existed, and that is that Houston is still in a depression, is folding up their tent and going home, is breadline. I think all those things will be replaced by Houston's hot, and it's hot for energy, hot for jobs, hot for business, hot for the arts, hot for performing arts, and that we're on the rebound and on the recovery.
One thing visiting diplomats and the international media won't be seeing is trash. Strake has taken special pride in the Houston Clean Committee.
Last Saturday, I think, was my proudest moment as a Houstonian, and that is to see 5,000 people swarming downtown Houston from Congress Avenue to the Museum District, cleaning this city up. And I think it's as clean as it's ever been, and I hope it stays that way.
As for the economic summit itself, Strake believes the changes in Eastern Europe will dominate the discussions.
You can assume that certainly the incredible changes in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe and the literally crumbling of the communist empire before our eyes and how that affects us economically and the other industrialized nations has got to be top on the agenda.
1990 could be called the year of the summit for George Bush. This economic summit, coming on the heels of the Gorbachev visit and the NATO summit, could be considered anticlimactic. But Strake, like the president, believes it will be rather the culmination of those events. And what better place to hold this important meeting than in the president's hometown? After all, Houston's hot.
And Dave and Cher, the one thing that Mr. Strake said he feared the most was that after the economic summit was over, he was going to get 100 phone calls from people saying, hey, how come you never called me and asked for my help? Back to you guys.
Okay, very good. Good report, Alan. Thank you.
Of course, we have to admit, 14,000 people have volunteered for this summit effort. $10 million in contributions have come in from people, largely Houstonians, to help out. So you can't say that people aren't involved in it.
That's the truth. Stay with us. We'll be back with more on Eyewitness Houston in just a moment.
The preparations for the summit have been exhausting. Still ahead on Eyewitness Houston, reports on the beehive of activity at Houston's hotels and the business of catering the various events.
When you buy your new Geo from Mac Hike, drive it for a month. If you don't fall in love with it, we'll take it back. your new Mack Hike Geo has to be the one you want, or you can apply the full purchase price on any other car or truck that Mack Hike sells. We've got the price you want, the people you like, and the service you expect. Mack Hike and Geo. Satisfaction guaranteed, and we put it in writing.
Bengal is the solution to roaches.
I have a little girl that hates roaches. Every time she sees roaches, she screams. And so I bought a can of Bengal and I sprayed it in the house, and there's no more screams and no more roaches.
Right, and you'll believe it. I used to be a stomper, but now I'm a sprayer, a Bengal sprayer, that is.
Use Bengal, it works.
Bengal roach spray. Guaranteed roach extermination overnight.
You got the Bengal roach spray.
Thinking about flying to New Orleans? If these 17 reasons don't convince you to fly Southwest Airlines to New Orleans, maybe this one will. Think about the time you'll save flying from close-in downtown Houston Hobby Airport. Southwest Airlines, it's like having your own company plane.
Houston's finest hotels have been preparing for the arrival dignitaries of this economic summit. There have been a lot of individual problems to solve. For instance, what does British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher like and dislike? What do you think would suit the taste of the Japanese delegation? Well, Tom Cook is here with us, and he's got that story. Tom?
Dave, the foreign flags are flying high at the hotels. The menus, in many cases, have been reprinted in 2 languages. And there are many things that the hotels have done to make the visiting delegations feel right at home.
As everybody may know, English people are notorious for drinking everything lukewarm.
The British are coming to the Ritz-Carlton, and if they ring for a lift, the hotel wants employees to get them an elevator, not a car.
Restroom, a very important one, will be referred to either as the WC or the loo if they're being a little bit more casual.
Lessons in Londonese, freshly smoked Scottish salmon, and afternoon tea times are among the hotel's efforts to make Margaret Thatcher feel right at home.
It's the little touches which we take a lot of emphasis on right now.
The maple leaf won't be wrinkled when it flies over the inn on the park, and Brian Mulrooney probably won't find any loose change in the sofas. Employees don't want the Canadian delegation getting steamed about anything, unless they ask for it.
And who knows, Prime Minister Mulroney may need a shirt pressed at 3 a.m. If he does, we've got somebody here who's going to take care of it for him.
The Italian Prime Minister will have one of the best views in all of Houston, because he's staying here, in the presidential suite at the Wyndham Warwick. Italian officials liked it so much, they requested only a few minor changes, the most important of which was installing a secure private phone line. Okay, so it's not Italian marble, but the hotel facade will sparkle anyway.
Well, you've got the Italian coffees that you're going to be putting in the room.
Wyndham managers are making sure wake-up calls and menus are in Italian, but the food isn't.
And they want to try the foods that we have. They even told us that don't try preparing Italian food. You know, Americans don't make Italian food like Italians do. So they just want us to be ourselves.
That hardly seems likely for many Houston businesses, already putting the Summit Show on the road.
In all, Summit visitors are expected to spend about $20 million at Houston's hotels and restaurants during their stay here, but there will be a few other places where they'll drop some cash as well. Dave and Shara?
Yeah, we certainly hope so. Thank you, Tom. Of course, away from the hotels and all their special menus, there are also other meals that need to be served to the working delegates and also to various members of the delegations and their spouses. Let's go back downstairs now to Melanie Lawson, who has been following one of the busiest caterers in town. Melanie?
Sure, there were a lot of people throughout this summit who were concerned with things like motorcades and protocol, as we've heard. But there are some other people who've been concerned with menus and pleasing the palates of our foreign dignitaries. I'd like to introduce you to one man who is hungering to lay it all on the table.
He arrives at his kitchen in a snow-white chariot that's almost as understated as the man who drives it. And Jackson Hicks is the first person to poke fun at his reputation for flashiness.
It's almost the same color as this coat, isn't it?
But the one thing Hicks takes very seriously is food. Although he's catered to the rich and famous in Houston for years now, serving the world's leaders is a lot to bite off, even for him. And that means measuring every detail.
She's cutting them all to exactly the same length. I don't know exactly how many asparagus 500 pounds translate to, but I would guess close to 10,000 of these little spears.
Hicks has a full plate during this summit week. He's booked every day, including the prestigious dinner being given by the First Lady for the dignitary spouses and a working lunch for the President on Tuesday. The menus are all being kept secret, but you can count on some Texas taste.
Texas is sort of the thing legends and novels are made out of, and I think our cuisine's like that. People have heard about Tex-Mex food or our great barbecue or great big beefsteak tomatoes or terrific shrimp, you know, the size of whales. Maybe not quite that big, but we want to share that native regional cuisine with them.
So foreign journalists will get a good old-fashioned crawfish boil with 5,000 crawfish and some help for novices.
And you just rip the tail section right off, just like that, and you get a lot of terrific meat right out of the tail there.
And what Gulf Coast Jamboree would be complete without 200 gallons of red beans and an equal amount of rice? There'll be lots of quail here. That's Bob White, not Dan. And staffers are going out on a limb to surprise.
We'll have a number of these, some of them completely covered in Texas avocados and others in peppers.
Only the finest and freshest of ingredients are being used, and that's keeping local growers busy up till the final hour.
Every produce has an optimal time when it needs to be picked. For instance, strawberries, which is something that we're using, are best picked about 24 to 36 hours before they're served.
This is a white and dark chocolate mousse cake.
But while staffers take their sweet time designing dishes that will dazzle, Hicks says he won't upstage the main course.
And we want our food to be beautiful and served in a way that is polished. But our main concern is that we don't in any way interrupt the working nature of the lunches that are going to be going on. Little details like having individual place settings with a little miniature salt and pepper shaker so somebody doesn't have to say, hey, pass the salt.
It's a small thing, but it could help provide summit leaders with some food for thought.
And incidentally, he has been responsible for all of the food tonight at Media Fest, as well as many other events. This is just part of 10,000 desserts that have been made up for this summit. Sweet duty, huh, Dave?
Yes, and Sharon and I will be down to join you in a few minutes, Melanie. Thank you. And stay with us. We'll be back with more of this special live edition of Eyewitness Houston in just a moment.
Next on Eyewitness Houston, a panel of experts preview the summit, and we'll have a viewing guide to the next 4 days.
If you go someplace for a little shrimp, you just might get a little shrimp. But if you want a lot of shrimp and you want them really quick, there's only one great little seafood place, Captain D's, where you can get Captain D's Super Shrimp Platter with 16 big golden shrimp. Captain D's, what a great little seafood place.
The Louisiana Iced Tea Appreciation Society.
I really appreciate the taste of Louisiana iced tea because it's specially blended for iced tea.
I know that it's specially blended for iced tea because it says right here on the box, specially blended for iced tea.
My family and I have switched from Lipton to Louisiana iced tea. It's specially blended for iced tea. We love it.
Oh, that's so good. I love it.
One taste and you'll join the Louisiana Iced Tea Appreciation Society too. Louisiana, specially blended for iced tea.
Many people say we may already be experiencing the beginning effects of a global warming. Maybe these will help. Bonbons, the chocolate-covered ice cream treat.
The 1990 Sunbirds, they're Pontiac's very affordable getaway machines. Fun to drive, easy to own. The new Pontiac Sunbirds. You've got to check them out. And now with up to $1,600 cash back, Sunbird's more affordable than ever.
The decisions that are to be made at this upcoming economic summit may not have an immediate direct impact on us here in Houston, but a poll conducted by Eyewitness News and the University of Houston Center for Public Policy shows that most Houstonians do indeed think that this summit is very important.
And last night on Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock, we asked a panel of experts to offer their opinions.
There's no doubt that even before the summit begins, President Bush and Prime Minister Kai-fu will have some discussions on the trade deficit between Japan and the United States. So I don't think there's any doubt that that'll be one of the real key issues discussed during this summit.
Ken, I'd like to, trade is very important because trade is synonymous with jobs. And after all, when we look at the configuration, we have twice the gross national product of really all of combined Europe and 3 times as much as Japan. So trade is really the key.
I would add, Dave, that it's not only that it's an important problem, but it's also a problem that we understand perhaps to a more full extent than we do problems of global warming and some of the other items that you listed there on that survey. We do know what causes trade deficits, and it's really a question of having the political will and the agreement to take coordinated economic actions to try to eliminate the imbalances that create that.
Most Houstonians seem to feel that quite a bit can be accomplished at an economic summit. Do you really feel, is it realistic to hope that something concrete result from it?
Well, and again, Cher, I think one of the main things that may distinguish this summit is, in fact, that economics are the ultimate, the most important issue now being considered by these world leaders. As we saw, the President just came back from the NATO alliance, and of course, with the disintegration of the Soviet Union, increasingly everybody's attention is focusing on the economic issues. The real competition as we go forward through this decade will be on economic matters, not military matters. And I think this summit will be the first summit where, in fact, these leaders can concentrate on all of these critical issues.
One of that survey showed that the public in Houston, anyway, feels overwhelmingly that the Soviets, the Russians, should have been invited to this economic conference. Why weren't they?
I think the decision not to invite the Soviets was the right decision, really for 2 reasons. First of all, it would be a great diversion from what has to take place in terms of economic matters. If Mr. Gorbachev were here, all of the attention would be focused on what's happening in Russia. Secondly, Russia has not yet made the transition to a market-oriented economy. And it's very difficult to talk about economic matters and going forward unless you're talking with somebody that understands the pricing system. And so I think as wonderful as it would be to have Mr. Gorbachev here, it was the right decision not to invite him.
You think somewhere down the line, though, surely the Soviets will be included in an economic summit conference of this type in the future?
Oh, there's no question about it. The Soviets will be a player. Certainly we all hope that's the case, including all of Eastern Europe. And never, I think in the history of the world, has globalization really taken on the meaning that we have today. This is a very important summit.
That's true. Very important summit. And finally here this evening, we're going to take kind of a tongue-in-cheek look at this upcoming summit.
That's because we have commissioned Houston Post political cartoonist Jimmy Margulies, who's going to keep us posted of his views of the summit throughout the week.
The amazing thing about the Economic Summit is the way that it's brought together diverse sectors of our community. Many people of different backgrounds have been united all together, pulling for one common purpose, a mailbox moment. Now, in order to facilitate the flow of traffic, the Highway Department has been considerate enough to post signs on all the major thoroughfares to enable us to know where to go. And one of the concerns about the summit is Houston's heat and summer weather. Well, you've heard of the Walkman and the Discman and the Watchman. For the summit, we've developed a portable personal air conditioning unit, and we call it the Iceman. Security for the visiting delegates here at the summit is going to be extraordinarily tight, and the Secret Service isn't giving out too much, but we have found out that they brought in a special food taster to make sure that nothing happens to our visitors, and he's discovered a problem: slime in the ice machine.
Marvin's new do.
Yeah.
That's Eyewitness News Houston for tonight.
And we thank you for being with us. Hope you'll join us again tomorrow night at 6:30. Special live program of the President's Barbecue, Rodeo, and the Grand Ole Opry, only here on 13.
And dust off your boots, everyone. We'll see you then.
Thank you for being with us, and good evening.
Saturday night at 10:30. Was it a true religious experience or a scheme to abuse the faithful?
I feel so powerful and full of love. I'm about to explode. Repent with Sister Falconer!
Then you think it's wrong.
Not wrong. Ridiculous. 1 minute, you're preaching a happy, perfumed heaven. The next minute, Gantry's damning everyone to a scalding, stinking hell.
I'd say we make a pretty good team.
Burt Lancaster is the Bible-thumping Elmer Gantry. Saturday night at 10:30 here on 13.
Sunday morning at 9, when it's a real whodunit, there's only one man to call.
Who did you assign to the case? Inspector Preserve. She killed him. What?
That's not true.
I suspect.
At 6:30, join President Bush for his rodeo and Grand Ole Opry party in its entirety. The ABC movie is next, followed by 13 Eyewitness News. Then stay tuned for Mr. Belvedere and Life Goes On. Exclusive Texas-style entertainment Sunday night here on 13. Monday's General Hospital will be seen at the special time of 2:30 in its entirety.
Good evening, friends. I'm Dave Ward. We are live at Houston's Contemporary Arts Museum.
And I'm Cheryl Fryer, and this is a special edition of Eyewitness Houston.
This evening, we're reporting on the Economic Summit, which officially opens in Houston on Monday. The schedules are in place, the extracurricular activities are planned, and it's just a matter of getting things rolling. Yes, this economic summit is probably one of the biggest events to happen in our city in recent memory. The Houston Host Committee has been busy for months. They've been working along with the Secret Service and various other law enforcement agencies to scour the city and make it secure for President Bush and his invited guests from Europe, Japan, and Canada.
Of course, they'll be meeting over at Rice University. That's the official working headquarters for the summit. The convention center is where reporters from around the world will be headquartered. And on the eve of the first of all the official events, I'd say that things are starting to come together now.
We are broadcasting this program to you live from the Contemporary Arts Museum. We will be joined in a few minutes by our colleagues.
Today, our This Week program comes to Houston for the Economic Summit. We'll talk about economic and security issues with the Secretary of State, James Baker, and Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. Joining me from the historic south entrance of the Houston Museum of Fine Arts, ABC's Sam Donaldson, George Will, and our White House correspondent, Britt Hume. Sunday, 12 noon, Channel 13, KTRK.
President Bush and Channel 13 are kicking off the Economic Summit with a Texas-style party, and you're invited to an exclusive ringside seat. Sunday night, you can enjoy Channel 13 programming and the President's Party beginning at 5:30 with 13 Eyewitness News, followed at 6 by America's Funniest Home Videos.
Melanie Lawson, Alan Himberger, and Tom Cook.
We're here because this museum is one of several, four to be exact, where a huge party is being held later this evening for the visiting members of the media from all over the world who have descended upon Houston for the Economic Summit. And we would like you to see what the visitors are going to be seeing when they arrive for that party. And Deborah Wrigley has that report.
In a typical week, the Contemporary Arts Museum sees up to 1,000 visitors. Tonight, it's expected to have 4 times that number. And the CAM, as it's known, is preparing to show off.
A lot of the work is just beautiful, and it's using natural materials.
It was welcome coincidence an environmental art exhibit is what visiting reporters will see here. And it may send a message: ecology is not lost on a petrochemical city. This piece is made in part from tar.
This piece is called Monument to United States 1 and 2.
And next to that, the nation on ceramic tile, highlighted by bits and pieces of nature and earth. A toxic waste map is included in the display. This piece curves from the floor and up a wall, a rubbing of a Utah creek that died. Another one is a composite of soil gathered locally. The artist is from New York.
It was collected by 1,000 school children from Aldine, Alief, and Cypress Fairbanks, and Alan Saunders